Welcome back. A leaked memo revealing comments by US President Donald Trump were misleadingly edited by the BBC, and that, of course, has set off two major resignations at the broadcaster.
The Director General, Tim Davies, and News Chief Deborah Turness have both quit amid the fallout, while Donald Trump himself has taken aim, calling the broadcaster dishonest.
Well, the journalist and historian Mark Urban joins us now. You, of course, worked at the BBC for a very long time, 35 years, is that right?
Yes, an inmate for all those years.
Well, congratulations on your escape in that case. Was it the right thing, do you think, for these two people to resign?
Well, this is a very interesting question. I think a lot of people around the culture world...
Can I ask you to pause? I'm going to come back to you, but we can just hear from Deborah Turness.
To make one thing very clear, BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider. And if you'd excuse me,
why did you fail to deal with the mistakes that were made?
And see my teams. Thank you so much for being here.
Do you think that the journalists are institutionally corrupt, like President Trump says? Do you think the journalists?
Of course, our journalists aren't corrupt. Our journalists are hard-working people who strive for impartiality, and I will stand by their journalism.
Is there institutional bias at the BBC?
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
But why weren't the mistakes dealt with on Trump, on anti-Semitism, on women's rights?
I'm sure that story will emerge, but for now, I'm going to go in and see our team.
Do you think the board acted against you?
Thank you so much for being here.
Do you think the board acted against you?
Thank you. We're going in.
Thank you.
Thank you. This way.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, that's...
So you have Lucy Manning, a BBC correspondent, I should say, doorstepping the head of news, Deborah Turness, who, of course, resigned from her job. We were speaking then to Mark Urban, and we can get your direct reaction to that. She said there the BBC News is not institutionally biased. I just wonder, what do you think it is? What's your take?
Well, I think, let's face it, this crisis has come about because the BBC, including Deborah Turness, were not willing to listen to and act sufficiently energetically upon the recommendations of their own internal system for checking bias. Now, we saw that leaked memo with a long list of things. I mean, we've all focused on the Trump interview, but, you know, there was stuff about gender issues, there was stuff about race, there was stuff about Gaza. And I think when you put all those things collectively together, we understand. And if you've been in meetings, as I have for many years, you've seen the BBC change in recent years. I think in common with many other news organisations and many other publicly funded organisations, but you've seen that much more, you know, for want of a better word, woke tendency among younger members of staff, and the tension between young and old. And of course, that's what's burst out here. Now, she resigned on Saturday evening, and I think the interesting question is, well, why did then the Director General have to go? I'm hearing that the board as a whole had expressed confidence in the Director General going forward after her resignation. So why did he need to go? And I think that's a fascinating question. Is it just a horrific job in which the pressures are just too much? He'd had enough, or...
Yeah, it's interesting to see. It really is. I was really interested to hear what you were just saying then as well about what you kind of witnessed in meetings. And you're right, this happens in all big organisations to an extent, right? Everyone has their own biases, there is kind of groupthink, there is peer pressure. What kind of things in particular were you sort of a witness to? Well,
look, I've written about this in my blog. I mean, you know, you have discussions about gender issues. Someone suggests getting J.K. Rowling on. Well, to be honest with you, you're pretty lucky if you get her on your programme.
Yeah.
But someone then one of the producers immediately said, no, I don't think we should. She's very problematic. And then someone said, well, how is she problematic? You know, that sort of discussion came up. And, you know, you could often see it's the way that stories are framed and the way that questions are asked, you know, that the onus is always on a certain side of the argument to justify their position.
And do you think it can be difficult, I guess, if you were, like, you know, in a big group of people to be seen as, like, not being kind of right on enough on something like, you know, trans issues or whatever it is, because being judged by people around you?
Yeah, there's a social pressure. And as you guys know, there's just the operational thing. You know, you're out here on air and you're really relying on the producers, on the others who work here, to get you through the programme and to back you up. And if you have a bad atmosphere, you've just had a big argument in a meeting because they consider that you've been, you know, an old white guy or too friendly to Israel on the Gaza, or whatever the question is, then that teamwork is undermined to an extent. So I think in broadcasting, I think there are particular issues where groupthink or the desire to avoid conflict
Yeah.
becomes quite a problem in the management of the organisation.
Looking forward, the BBC needs a new Director General, and they've got this whole argument going on about the apology that Samir Shah is expected to give at some point today. We understand there's some kind of conflict about the wording. What do you think the BBC needs to do going forward? I mean, what kind of candidate do you think there needs to be for the next DG?
Well, first off, I'm sorry to see Tim Davie go. I really am. In all my working experiences with him, I think he made a really good and very energetic. He was a proper sort of Tigger in terms of advocating for the organisation and defending it. So I'm sorry he's going. And now, of course, we face this charter renewal process, and a new Director General has to be found. As you say, they have to be someone of pretty exceptional qualities because the allegations of bias from both sides of the political spectrum, the financial pressures, the way the media is changing, the need to invest in digital while keeping those legacy services. It's a massive challenge. But I think what is really critical is not to indulge in sort of evasion of what those critical points were in that Prescott report and in the units that the BBC has internally and usually confidentially raising those concerns. They've got to be more straightforward and make a clean go of it in terms of tackling those questions of bias.
It's been really interesting to talk and to get your perspectives. Thank you so much for being on the programme. Mark Oban there speaking to us.